going on, guys? It's your boy John the Liquidator coming back with another video. There's disturbing news coming out of the city of Cleveland, man. To me, based on everything that I've heard thus far, everything I've seen online, even with the QB tracker, the Browns are possibly pushing to bench Shedeur Sanders. Now, I'm hoping this is not true, but it's looking like they're trying to hype up Deshaun Watson yet again. You even got people like Garrett Bush in the media calling out peers of local media.
He threw the ball, and somehow that one throw became a national conversation. Not a touchdown, not a trophy, just a football spinning through August air in Berea, Ohio. And by the next morning, it was everywhere. Group chats lit up. Sports talk shows opened their broadcasts with it. 100 YouTube thumbnails carried his face, red arrows pointing at his release point, his footwork, his eyes. Because in Cleveland right now, nothing Shedeur Sanders does is just football. Everything is evidence. Everything gets picked apart, frame by frame, like the league's future depends on a Tuesday practice rep in July. This is a story about a quarterback who hasn't taken a single regular season snap yet, and somehow already has an entire fan base split in two, arguing on opposite sides of a decision that hasn't even been made. Let's rewind for a second, because to understand why one training camp practice can explode like this, you have to understand the pressure this young man walked into the moment he arrived. Shedeur Sanders didn't show up in Cleveland quietly. He arrived carrying a last name that means something to an entire generation of football fans. A father who built a Hall of Fame career on confidence and controversy in equal measure, who taught his sons that swagger isn't optional, it's armor. Cameras had been following Shedeur since he was a teenager, throwing passes in his father's backyard drills. Doubters had been lining up against him before he'd thrown a single professional pass, long before anyone in Cleveland ever put a playbook in his hands. Then the draft happened, and if you were watching that night, you remember exactly how strange it felt. Round after round went by. Team after team passed on him. Analysts who had him rated as a first-round talent sat in stunned silence as his name kept not being called. The kid who should have heard his name on night one was still sitting in the green room deep into day 3, phone in hand, cameras capturing every second of the wait, every flicker of frustration he tried to hide behind a calm face. Cleveland finally called, and even that moment, a moment that should have been pure celebration, felt less like a triumphant landing spot and more like the opening chapter of a story nobody could stop arguing about. Was it a steal? Was it a warning sign? Did every other team know something Cleveland didn't? Or did Cleveland just get the steal of the entire draft, sitting there in the 5th round, when a first-round arm fell into their lap?
As well, basically saying that what he's seeing there is not what is being reported, which lead me to believe that no matter what Shedeur Sanders does, they're not going to name him the starter. I am 100% convinced at this point in time that they're making it their business to bench this young man. Check out some of these highlights just from today. Now, a lot of people making excuses that Shedeur was doing this in 707.
Nobody agreed. Nobody still agrees. And that disagreement has followed him into every single practice since. So he shows up in Berea already carrying weight most rookies never have to touch. Most 5th-round picks get to develop in obscurity. Most get a redshirt year, a chance to learn the playbook without 100 cameras dissecting their every rep. Shedeur doesn't get that luxury. He never has. Now add another layer to it. Because he's not just fighting for reps against an anonymous training camp arm. He's fighting inside a quarterback room that already has history, already has money invested, already has a narrative wrapped around it. Cleveland didn't just draft Shedeur. They're still paying, and in corners of that building, still believing in Deshaun Watson, a quarterback whose name alone carries its own complicated weight in that city. And that's where this entire competition stops being simple. Because every good throw Shedeur makes gets measured instantly against every rep Watson takes. Every incompletion gets replayed in slow motion, dissected by strangers with strong opinions and clipped videos. Fans watching from behind a chain-link fence aren't just observing a quarterback competition anymore. For a lot of them, this feels like something bigger. It feels like a referendum on the whole organization's judgment, on years of decisions that haven't always paid off, on a fan base that's tired of hoping and getting let down. Here's the thing about training camp that most people forget. In a normal year, nobody outside the building cares. A third-string rookie throws a nice comeback route on a random Tuesday in July, and it disappears into nothing. No one's filming it. No one's timestamping it. No one's building a spreadsheet out of it. Not with Shedeur. Every single rap gets uploaded somewhere within minutes of him throwing it. Fans stand behind that fence with their phones raised the entire practice, zooming in, cataloging completions, building entire tracking systems out of 7-on-7 drills. There's practically a cottage industry now around this one quarterback competition. Accounts counting his completions like a stock ticker, breaking down his footwork drill by drill, comparing raw numbers pass by pass like the whole league's future hangs on it. And that's the environment he's operating in every single day. Not just make the throws. Make the throws while a small army of amateur analysts and a much louder army of professional ones dissects every single one of them in real time, live, with no room for a bad day. So what happens when the kid actually plays well under all of that? That's the part that's been fueling this entire conversation for weeks now.
And there wasn't really any pass rush. He's been making exceptional passes this whole training camp. I mean, throws this whole training camp. Throws just like this whole damn training camp. You have several people stating that Deshaun Watson is better than Shedeur Sanders. Let's watch this Deshaun Watson highlight here.
Because by a lot of accounts, camp reports, completion trackers, reactions from people actually standing on that practice field, Shedeur has looked sharp. Anticipation throws that arrive before the receiver even turns his head. Tight window completions, squeezed into gaps that shouldn't exist. The kind of quiet, repeatable consistency that doesn't always make it onto a highlight reel, but shows up in a quarterback's actual job description. Put the ball where it needs to be, on time, over and over again, until it stops being luck and starts being a pattern. And still, there's this undercurrent running through the fan base, this nagging feeling among a chunk of supporters that no matter what the tape shows, the depth chart isn't going to reflect it. That the decision might already be made somewhere behind closed doors, regardless of what happens on the field in August, regardless of completion percentages or clean pockets or veteran polish beyond his years. Is that fair to say? Maybe not without more evidence than a feeling. Is it real, as an emotion gripping a fan base? Absolutely, undeniably real. Then there's the other side of this argument, because it's not one-sided noise no matter how loud one side gets online. There are voices connected to this organization, pushing back hard against the doubt. Former players, people who've actually stood on that field and watched this kid up close, practice after practice, arguing that what gets reported publicly doesn't always match what's actually happening behind those fences, in those install meetings, in the film room where the real evaluation happens. That disconnect between what a camera catches from behind a chain link fence and what a coaching staff sees across install after install, detail after detail that never makes it onto social media, that disconnect is exactly what's driving half of this entire debate. Nobody agrees on what's actually true right now. And that uncertainty, that fog of half information, is precisely what's keeping the story alive night after night, week after week. If you're new here, this is exactly the kind of story we like to tell. Real pressure, real stakes. Athletes navigating a level of scrutiny most of us will never fully understand, no matter how many hot takes we type into a comment section. If that's the kind of storytelling you're drawn to, stick around and hit that subscribe button, because there's a lot more of this coming, and you won't want to miss where this one goes. Now, here's where this whole story gets genuinely interesting, because for all the outside noise, the people who've spent real time around Shedeur keep saying almost the exact same thing about him, independent of each other, unprompted. The noise doesn't move him.
Real quick, let's get this pulled up here. So this was ESPN Cleveland QB tracker. Shedeur Sanders was 11-16. He was Deshaun Watson was 11-16. He had 1 interception, 0 touchdowns. I mean, all of these numbers, day after day after day, Shedeur Sanders has proven, based on the numbers, to consistently be better than Deshaun Watson. I don't care what they say. I don't care how they feel.
Teammates describe a guy who shows up early and stays late, who doesn't flinch when a throw sails high or a route gets run wrong underneath him. No storming off the practice field, no sideline outbursts, no public complaints about playing time or perception, just the next rep. That's the reputation that's followed him from Jackson State, where he first built his name, through Colorado, where the entire country watched his every move under his father's shadow and his father's spotlight simultaneously, and now into Cleveland, where the scrutiny has only intensified. Whether you believe that composure is genuine confidence forged over years of pressure, or a very carefully managed public image built by a family that understands media better than most front offices do, one thing has stayed consistent through all of it. It hasn't cracked under pressure. If anything, the noise around Cleveland has gotten louder this summer than almost anywhere he's been before, and he's somehow gotten quieter about it in public, letting the throws do more of the talking than his press conferences ever could. There's a particular specific kind of pressure in being a backup quarterback who might not actually be a backup much longer, where every single practice rep is treated like an audition tape, but you don't control the judges, you don't control the scoring, and you definitely don't control the schedule. You just have to keep showing up, keep stacking good days on top of good days, and let the throws speak in a language louder than any hot take. And that's really what this entire summer has been for him. Throw after throw, read after read, building a case one practice rep at a time, in front of an audience that, for a significant chunk of it, already decided months ago exactly what they wanted to see happen before a single ball was even snapped in pads. So where does this actually go from here? That's the question everyone keeps circling back to, and nobody outside that building can answer with any real certainty. Preseason is coming, and for a quarterback sitting exactly where Shedeur is sitting right now, that first live game matters more than almost anyone outside the organization fully realizes. Real bullets flying at him, real pass rush closing pockets that looked wide open in a scripted 7-on-7 drill. Not air, not cones, actual grown men trying to knock the ball loose and put him on the ground. That's the setting where a lot of these lingering questions finally start getting real tangible answers, one way or another, in front of an entire stadium instead of a few hundred people pressed against a practice fence. Coaches have talked publicly about competition being open, about the job being earned and not given. Whether that's fully completely true, or whether some portion of the outcome is already quietly leaning a certain direction behind closed doors that the public simply doesn't have access to, that's exactly the debate nobody outside that building can settle with any real certainty right now. Fans will keep arguing about it in comment sections until the depth chart is finally posted. Analysts will keep picking sides on television, defending their takes with increasing volume. The tracker accounts will keep counting completions like it's a horse race with real stakes attached to every single throw. But eventually, actual football happens. Pads come on, stadium lights come on. Somebody wearing a different colored jersey is genuinely trying to take his head off on third down. And whatever's been building all camp long, the pressure, the constant comparisons, the doubt from one side, the belief from the other, all of it is going to get tested live, in real time, in front of everybody, with absolutely no room left to hide behind a good practice rep or a favorable camp report.
So those were Shedeur Sanders highlights. And just like I stated, man, the Cleveland media is doing everything in their power to try to discredit this young man on the football field. And I don't know. I guess we all will get a chance to see during preseason. Hopefully they even give Shedeur a lot of burn during preseason. I want to see Shedeur play with the ones. See, last year, they put him out there with gym teachers and librarians, bro. I want to see Shedeur with the starters.
Here's what makes this particular story bigger than just one quarterback competition, though. Bigger than one depth chart decision in one city. It's about what happens when raw talent collides head-on with a narrative that's already been written. When the story people have decided about you long before you ever got the chance to prove otherwise starts fighting directly against what you're actually doing on the field, day after day, in front of anyone willing to actually watch instead of assume. Shedeur Sanders has heard some version of not good enough for basically his entire life. He heard it before the draft slide humiliated him on national television. He's heard it in every single debate about his arm strength, his pocket presence, his footwork, his last name, and everything that name is assumed to represent, fair or not. And every single time, without exception, his response has looked exactly the same. Keep throwing. Keep working. Let the tape argue on your behalf, because the noise online never will, no matter how good a single practice looks. Maybe that mentality is naive in a league this brutal, this unforgiving, where careers get decided by inches and injuries and decisions made in rooms players never even get invited into. Maybe belief alone doesn't actually win a quarterback competition against a veteran with guaranteed money attached to his name. But there's something undeniably human, something worth paying attention to, in watching someone refuse to let outside noise dictate how hard they work, even when that outside noise is deafening, even when it feels like the outcome might already be rigged against them, even when nobody in that building is promising him a fair, transparent shake at the job he clearly believes he's earned. So here's where we leave this story for now, because there isn't a clean answer yet, and pretending there is one would be dishonest. Cleveland's quarterback room remains genuinely unsettled heading into preseason. The depth chart is still being written in real time, rep by rep, practice by practice, with every single throw feeding into a decision that hasn't been finalized, at least not publicly. A young quarterback carrying a famous name and a very real chip on his shoulder is still out there every single day, in the heat, under the cameras, trying to make an impossible decision genuinely impossible to get wrong. Whether the Browns eventually bench him, start him, or make him wait even longer for his shot, that part of the story is still unwritten, still being decided somewhere between a practice field and a coach's office. But how he's handled getting to this exact point, throw after throw, doubt after doubt, camera after camera pointed directly at him, that part has already been decided, and it's already on tape for anyone willing to actually watch it. We'll be watching closely when the pads finally come on for real, when the lights are brightest and the pressure is highest, because that's when stories exactly like this one finally get their real answer.